Hello friends, welcome to this YouTube video program. Friends, we are discussing about different the concept and content point of different units of MA education program of Indira Gandhi National Open University. We are discussing about the first course of MA education program. The first course is MES-011. Course title is Understanding Education, and we have already discussed the first two units, that is Unit 1. The unit title is Education as an Operational Aspect of Society, and we have also discussed the Unit 2, the second unit of this course, that is Education, a Purposive and Continuous Process. And at present we are discussing the third unit of this course, that is Differentiating Education from Learning and Schooling. And in this unit, means in third unit, already we have discussed in our first program, first video program, we have explained about the concept of education and the broadness of education. And further in this program we will discuss that how education is different from the concept of learning, the concept of schooling, the concept of training, the concept of indoctrination. So friends, as I have already discussed in my first program in this unit, that education is a lifelong process. This is a continuous process. You see, the work of education, it starts from very beginning of one's birth, and it continues till the death. Okay, means there is no limitation of age, there is no limitation of place, there is no limitation of situation. Okay, so from every situation, every place, at any stage of life, one can learn something. So this is not all about the learning which takes place from the school, from the formal system of education. So you can say the throughout the life, what experiences we gain, that is part of education. So that's why this is the very broader concept of education. So there is ever opportunity for any individual to acquire certain knowledge, to know about certain development of the society, at the same time to acquire certain skill. Okay, and you can also say that from the experience that the individual faces in the society, maybe at the family, maybe at the society, maybe from the culture. Okay, maybe with coming contact with the friend circle, with the peers, with the group. So there is the scope to learn something at any moment of life. So friends, further now we'll discuss the concept of schooling, and we'll also try to understand that how education is different from schooling. Okay, so friends, when we talk about schooling, you see, this is one aspect of education, you can say. One aspect of education means schooling is a very limited process, that you can say this is a formal system of education. Means at a particular time, the child goes to school and engages himself or herself with certain curriculum, and you'll find that teachers are appointed in the school. So every day there is teaching learning process is conducted in school. So that's we can say that this is a formal system of acquiring knowledge, acquiring you can say formal system of education. Means in a definite place, both the student, teacher will come to a definite place, that's called as a school, and definite courses and curriculum is fixed for every standard, just like for standard 1, 2, 3, 4, secondary, senior secondary, or you can also talk about the higher education system. And within a time period, just like let in 1 year, one should study the curriculum which is meant for that standard. Just like for class 7th, means the curriculum which is fixed, which has developed, which is constructed for class 7th will be completed in class 7th. Okay, so that's why further you can say that the formal education it completes after a particular period of life. Just like the 10th, the school examination or the 10th board examination, it completes after the age of 14 or 15, okay, after the 10th standard. Then higher secondary education, this is of 2 years. Then college education, this is of 3 years. So that's why, so here there is the limitation of time, limitation of resources, limitation of experiences, limitation of curriculum, okay. So this is a very scheduled matter, you can say it is a very formal process. So when we talk about education, this is a lifelong process, but when we are talking schooling, you can say this is a limited life stage process. Just like after reaching at a particular stage of life, your formal education or your schooling process is completed. So that's why you can say schooling is a part of education, but schooling includes in education, okay. To differentiate education and schooling, you can say that schooling is a part of education and schooling is included in education. Education is a very broad term, okay. So under that broad concept, under that broad term, broad experiences, then the schooling contributes for education. And you can say when we talk about schooling, this is not a lifelong process. The school education, it ends after completion of a certain period, after completion of a certain age. So that's why you can say that this is a lifelong process. But when we talk about education, the very broad term of education, definitely this is a lifelong process. This is you can say it starts from the birth and it continues till one's death. So every stage one supposed to learn something. Then further we can also understand the concept of learning and how learning is different from education. Friends, just like schooling is a part of education, is a narrow concept of education, and schooling is included in education, accordingly learning is also included in education. You see, learning means how a child learns, okay. So when we talk about learning, even if you see in schooling the child learns, at the same time beyond the schooling the child also learns something. So you can say the concept of the self learning. So nowadays you will find that the materials which is available in the internet in different forms of printed material, and what the learners do, the learners they studied the available material by using different sources. So by studying different materials, the available sources, you will find that the learners are getting learning. So that's why when we talk about learning, it is a process which result in more or less permanent modification of behavior as a result of practice of experience. So friends, when we talk about learning, so by using any technique, by using a media, maybe maybe a print media, maybe electronics media, so one can also acquire certain knowledge. So that's why this is also a part of education. Education is a very broad term, but learning, we just like a child experience many things from the society informally, from the community, from the family, and education, school is a place where the experiences of the child are getting used for for understanding the new concept, okay, for understanding the new knowledge, for applying the new knowledge. So that's why when we talk about learning, you can't make a boundary that learning is only possible in schooling. Rather, learning is possible beyond schooling, out of schooling, okay, from the environment where we are living. We are observing many things, we are experiencing many development of the society. At the same time, in our environment also, we observe about the seasonal change, we observe about different agricultural product and how it grows in a particular season, okay, regarding our flora and fauna, regarding our physical environment, we observe many things and we learn many things. At the same time, when we talk about formal learning system, formal schooling system, there also we learn certain things, but at the same time you can say that all types of learning you are gaining from the school. So that's why you can say beyond the school there is the possibility of learning. So friends, here you can say that learning is a part of education. Education is a broad term, whereas learning is a part of education. Then further we can talk about training. Training is also a part of education. Training come under education. So friends, when we talk about training, it means the term training is not properly fit for the human being, for educating the human child. But you see, for training, for providing training to the animals, we use the word training. But for the human being, though you are using synonymously the word training, but it is not the exact appropriate word, appropriate term for modification of behavior of the human child. But we use training in a term, in a sense that many a time we require certain expertise knowledge, certain professional knowledge, certain skills which demands in a particular profession. Just like when we talk about teaching to the students in a school, means the role of a teacher, the duty of a teacher. So what type of skill a teacher should develop for teaching students in a school, okay, for teaching different subjects? What type of skill is required for teaching mathematics to the elementary and secondary students? What type of teaching skill is required for teaching English language, English literature at different stages of school education? So here you see such type of specialized, such type of specific training, or that we call as the pedagogy, that are being taught in a teacher education program, just like Bachelor of Education, Master of Education, or a diploma in elementary education. So in diploma in elementary education, the teachers are eligible to teach up to 8th standard of students. Then a B.Ed degree that make eligible to a teacher to teach at the secondary and senior secondary level, and a master degree of education, that is MEd program, that makes eligible to a teacher to be a teacher educator, or for doing many educational administration work. So friends, when we talk about training, this is not all about confined in the area of education. Rather, you can say training in other areas, training in the area of law, training in the area of management, training in the area of medical science, training in the area of engineering, okay, even if training in the area of defense sector, okay. So everywhere, means which is professional in nature, which is technical in nature, you will find that a rigorous training process is required. So that's why training, you can say, is a part of education, but this is a specialized branch of education, as the skill is required, okay. Means the person, they're supposed to undergo with many rigorous training. So they have to learn that training, they have to acquire that training, and they have to practice that training as the profession demands for practicing that training, that skills, okay. So friends, we have in our earlier program, we have also discussed about the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain of you can say of your stating objectives as well as to achieving the objectives. So here when we talk about training, it means it deals, or it caters the psychomotor domain, means the hands-on activities, means the person will involve in many activities, many skills. They have to acquire the skills, and they will fit themselves, they will acquainted themselves with with the work culture, and what are the things that demands in a particular profession, maybe a teaching profession, maybe an administrative profession, maybe to be a soldier, maybe an officer in defense sector, okay, maybe a doctor, maybe what type of skill is required to be a surgeon, okay, what type of skill is required, you can say, to be a craftsperson. So that's why here training is highly associated with the skills, okay. It may be manual skill, it may be technical skill, but that skill, the person should acquire that skill by undergoing with a rigorous training process. So that's why friends, when we talk about education, it also includes training, means training is also a part of education. Education includes the skill. When I was discussing about the concept of education, I have discussed about the knowledge, information, experiences, as well as the skills, the attitude as well as the skills. So here, friends, when we talk about training, it highly linked with the development of the skills, and that is also part of education. So that's why, to differentiating education and training, you can say training is a part of education. Then further, let us try to understand the concept of teaching. Many a time, synonymously we use these words, just like the learning, teaching, training. Okay, just like education, instead of education we also use such words. But truly speaking, there are certain differences, which is now we are discussing. In teaching, you see, teaching, you can say, just like in a formal system of education, formal system of schooling, you will find that teachers are appointed to teach the students. There is a definite curriculum, and you will find that in the curriculum this has been prescribed that how the topic, how the subject will be taught to the students, what methods, what techniques will be used. So accordingly, teacher uses that methods, that techniques to teach the students. So you can say teaching is the means employed to effect desirable changes in human behavior. Teaching involves communication of ideas, values, skills, information, and knowledge to the students. And systematically, it uses certain scientific methods, certain scientific techniques, certain art for developing the behavior of the children, developing the behavior of the students. And you will find that the scientific methods, techniques, strategies, that also differs so far as the nature of the content is concerned, so far as the nature of the subject is concerned. So that's why when we talk about teaching, you will find that this is a process. Okay, means certain curriculum has been developed, and for implementing that curriculum, the teachers are appointed, and they are transacting that curriculum, implementing that curriculum by using a media or using a multiple media, at the same time multiple methods, techniques, strategies, and maxims. And you see, for teaching, we use certain pedagogy, or you can say how the teaching learning process will be conducted. So for conducting the teaching learning process, for implementing the teaching, so you will find that many a time the concept of psychology is also used here. Means how the learners learn, how the child learns, means how to proceed. Just like we can say that we can proceed from simple to complex, we can proceed from you can say particular examples to a general concept. Okay, so that's why these concepts which is used in a teaching process, in a teaching learning process. Okay, so that's why when we talk about education, this is very broad, very vast, okay, very large concept, and teaching is definitely part of it. As like we are discussing, schooling is part of education. Accordingly, in schooling there is teaching. Okay, so that's why you can say that teaching is something different from education. So synonymously, both the terms are synonymously, you can't consider that both the terms are same, but you can say that definitely the concept of teaching is a part of education. Further, friends, we will discuss about indoctrination. You see, this is a huge concept, and as a master student of education, you should understand about indoctrination, what is the concept of it. So friends, when we talk about indoctrination, you can say indoctrination is a process of inculcating in the learner's ideas, attitudes, or a set of beliefs without entering to their rationality. Okay, so many a time you will find that the term indoctrination that we use, mostly we use it in a very religious matter. Okay, religious matter means you must have listened from your teachers that your teacher might be saying sometimes you have to follow it religiously, and if you follow it religiously, hardly you will face any difficulties, or hardly you will make any problem. So that's why religiously means without understanding the rationality of it, blindly you have to follow it. Okay, just like in religion, when you are going to a mandir, going to a masjid, or going to any religious place, religious institution, You see, without asking a question, just spiritually you are concentrating yourself to your God. Okay, so that's why when we talk about indoctrination in education, you will also find that in indoctrination you have to involve yourself wholeheartedly, you have to involve yourself deeply. Okay, so friends, when we talk about the characteristics or the features of a discipline or of a subject, one of the characteristics is there are certain intellectual followers in a discipline, and they continuously work for the development of that discipline. You can say that they are indoctrinated. That group of experts, that group of intellectuals, they are indoctrinated to that subject, to that discipline, for working. They have deep faith on that discipline, and continuously they are working on it. So that's why when we talk about indoctrination, it is you can say when you are naturally engaging yourself in the process of acquiring knowledge, in the process of practicing certain things, you can say that you are indoctrinated towards understanding the things, towards practicing the things. Then further you can say that indoctrination is linked with the knowledge and skill that one acquired through teaching. So indoctrination is the highest level of learning, you can say. Indoctrination, it is certain spiritual in concept, and you can achieve indoctrination after achieving the other aspect of the knowledge, after acquiring the knowledge, after acquiring the skills, after acquiring you can say your attitude, after developing a positive attitude. Okay, so without a positive attitude, you cannot indoctrinate yourself towards a concept, towards a development, towards the happening of a discipline, towards the discourses of a discipline. So that's why, friends, indoctrination without involving yourself, without asking questions, so you are wholeheartedly involving yourself in the process of learning, in the process of understanding the concept, in the process of investigating the things, in the process of knowing the things. So that's why when we talk about indoctrination, that is also part of education. Indoctrination is not something different. So friends, in this program we have discussed that how education is different from schooling, the concept of schooling, how education is further different from the concept of learning, from the concept of training, from the concept of teaching, and from the concept of indoctrination. So now you can say that the concept of education is very vast, very broad, but at the same time the concept of schooling, learning, training, then your teaching and indoctrination is part of education. Okay, they work for education, they come under education, but education is a lifelong process. Education is the total development of human personality. It touches, it includes all aspects of human development. So friends, in Unit 3, our major concern was to discuss or to differentiate education from learning and schooling, but what we have done further, we have discussed about the other aspects of education, so that being a master students, you shouldn't confine yourself only the material, only the curriculum that has been developed for you. At the same time, your knowledge horizon, your understanding, you should expand your horizon, you should expand your thinking process, and you should understand that how the things are happening, just like in this unit, how different concepts we use in education, and how education is a very broad aspect, and how other concepts just like training, learning, schooling, your indoctrination, teaching is a narrow concept, and that includes in the broad concept of education. So friends, today we completed the third unit of MES-011, and I will request all our students to go through the study material which is available in the IGNOU course as well as IGNOU Students app, and you have also received the hard copy material, and few students have not received, and now material getting dispatched. I think within few days you all will get material, and for the time being, who has not received the material, get the download it from the IGNOU course and watch these videos, then read the material, then definitely I'm I'm very much hopeful, and I'm sure that you'll understand the concept, and accordingly you can prepare yourself for understanding the concept. At the same time, you'll prepare yourself for the forthcoming term and examination, that is December 2000, the first year term and examination, that is in December 2022. Thank you.